Nick Foles says he's a little sore, but he will play on Sunday. Happy New Year. Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. David, welcome back, pal.
Oh, same to you, Mike. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And, wow, who would have thought we would be talking about an Eagles playoff game before we left for the new year? Crazy things happen, but let me ask you about this team has won 5 out of 6 all of a sudden. Do they have the feeling of the team that nobody wants to play, or do they have the feeling of a team that just, hey, we're in the playoffs and it'll be a sacrificial lamb?
No, they're definitely swinging the other way. They don't view themselves as a one and done kind of team. I mean, they are the 6th seed, which makes it a really tough road to go. But having been there last year, albeit with a whole different role, but they're a pretty confident bunch, and they've always had the attitude that if they could just get into the race, then they're going to be a tough out, and that seems to be the attitude that they're taking so far.
What has changed so much? I mean, I think everybody just kind of says, well, it's Foles, and they've responded, but is that really all it's been?
Not all. I mean, it's been a huge factor of it behind it, I think. I mean, you can't deny the impact and the influence he has on the team, both in the field and in the locker room. It's just his attitude and his calm under pressure, his inability to get rattled. He just has that composure about him, especially in clutch situations. But it's much more than that. I think Doug Peterson deserves a huge amount of credit. I mean, people were really ragging on him, when they dropped to 4 and 6. He'd lost the team, they weren't trying anymore, and maybe he could even be fired. But he's another one who just doesn't pay attention to outside influences. He knows the team, he knows the locker room. He's not afraid to lean on veterans for advice, and all those stuff came together, and that's why they're in the playoffs.
And what about Jim Schwartz? I would imagine that Schwartz is probably sitting behind closed doors with his feet up, a cigar, some scotch, with a huge smile on his face. I mean, because people were taking shots that he's the worst, he needs to be fired, there's this. I mean, they lost some games, the defense gave up some leads, but he was not playing with a full deck.
That's true. I mean, I'm not going to place a whole lot of stock in the Washington game because, you're going against Josh Johnson, for crying out loud. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, just down the stretch, the way that they've hung together, cornerbacks on the bench getting guys off the street, safeties getting hurt, linebackers. But they they found a way to, just like Doug did with Nick, they found a way to play to the defensive strengths. I think Malcolm Jenkins had a big influence on the secondary, just making sure the guys are in the right positions. And Rasul Douglas, I think he might be the most improved player, at least in the last couple of months. He's playing with confidence. He's not afraid to go after the ball. Really good tackler. And even Caron LeBlanc, who was, nobody and, getting roasted by everybody about a month ago. But even he's playing well. So, yeah, Jim Schwartz, he deserves a cigar after this.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City is with us here. The Eagles take on the Chicago Bears this Sunday. We'll have coverage beginning with the countdown to kickoff at 1 p.m. Dave, you look at the Bears, 3 seed, very good defensive team. Is this a good matchup for the Eagles, though? If you were to pick a team that you would have to have faced, do you like this matchup for Philly against the Bears?
Yes, I do. I mean, it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch. I mean, I get the feeling just listening to people that they don't seem to be giving the Bears a whole lot of credit. Why, though? I have no idea. I mean, their defense is as good as it gets. I think their Tariq Cohen is a very dangerous running back in a variety of roles. Mitchell Trubisky seems to be coming into his own a little bit. So, but yeah, if you're going to compare them to the other, top seeds, the Rams, the Saints, even the Cowboys, who seem to have the Eagles' number this year, then I think the Bears are probably the team that you want to play. However, I think they are a very tough team. But it seems like they're kind of similar in a way. I mean, Eagles defense, Bears defense, both been playing pretty well. So I think it's going to come down to probably a defensive battle.
Yeah,
on Sunday.
The offenses look different, and I mean, Foles is obviously taking more shots down the field, right? I mean, he's done some more things to get more guys involved, but I think a lot of that too is I don't know, maybe it's not. I don't know. Is it is it more Foles or is it Doug Peterson has changed his play calling a little bit?
Both. I think he knows Nick very well. I mean, they go back to 2012 together when Nick was a rookie here. He was actually the only assistant coach to actually work out Foles before the draft that year. So they kind of have this relationship for a while. And Doug knows his strengths, and he's building off of what he did last year with Nick as well. But part of it is Nick too. Like, he has that. It's kind of an overused phrase, but he does have that gunslinger mentality. He's not afraid to gamble once in a while. That's the reason why you see Alshon Jeffrey having such a great year now, because Nick's not afraid to throw up those 50-50 balls and let Alshon make a play.
Yeah.
And
I think Dave too. He's gotten like Aguilar was a big part of last year, and he was non-existent for most of the season until recently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to lay this on Carson because he had a very good year before he got hurt, but yeah, there's just something about Nick's ability to. I think I know it sounds kind of odd, but I think the team kind of seems to play. I don't want to say better, but they seem to play. I don't know, maybe harder because they know that Nick can't do it himself. Like, it seems like there were times earlier in the year where they were kind of relying on Carson to dig them out of holes and stuff. But with Nick, they know that he might not necessarily be capable of doing it by himself. So everybody seems to have picked up their game, and I think that has something to do with it too.
Dave, I was talking before you came on, and I know you covered the Garcia year where –
Yep. Merry Christmas, Philadelphia.
Right, exactly. I don't – and I'm on the Wentz side here. I'm a Wentz guy. So
I'm not, but go ahead.
I don't know how he comes back and steps back into this team. Like
Carson?
Right. I mean, they had to get rid of Garcia. They had to get rid of him because people were done with McNabb.
Right.
And if they had Garcia standing on that sideline, it would have been anarchy. I feel like they have to let Foles get out of here because I don't think Wentz can survive if he's standing on that sideline again.
Especially if Foles winds up winning another Super Bowl. It's a really weird dynamic. I mean, Carson's playing the good soldier, and he voices his support for Nick. But I don't know if they're really good friends though. And you're right. I mean, the more success that Nick has, and the more the people get behind him, and the fans are all in favor of him coming back. And why don't we try trading Wentz now for a couple first-round picks?
Do you think that's something they would consider at all?
At this point, no. But talk to me in 3 weeks after they win 3 games and get to the Super Bowl or something. Then I think the conversation has to at least be had. I mean, you can't deny Nick's success, his influence, his popularity. I don't see them bringing him back only because Howie's entire reputation and future is tied to Wentz. I mean, he made all those trades to get up to the number 2 pick. So there'd be a lot of egg on his face if they went and traded him. So I think Carson is probably the future here, but it's going to be a really interesting offseason if Nick continues to work his magic.
I wouldn't. I feel bad for Carson. I wouldn't want to be Howie. This is one of the most unique, odd situations where you have a team that has won a Super Bowl, got back to the playoffs, both times with the backup quarterback, while having a quarterback that you drafted very high and gave up a lot to get, who has been – it's not like this guy has been Jamarcus Russell as the number 1 pick in a total. This guy was going to be the MVP of the league. It's unbelievable. This story you could not duplicate.
Yeah, that's true. There's a little bit of a difference between Nick and Garcia, though, because Garcia knew he kind of played the game a little bit after that year. He made sure everybody knew that he wanted to come back. And Nick's kind of playing the good soldier here, where he's, I'm just relishing the opportunity to put on that jersey one more time, and wherever the future takes me, I'm just living in the now.
Oh, he's playing the game.
What's that?
He's playing the game. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot.
Yeah, right. Correct.
Well,
but yeah, I don't. It's going to be really interesting. The thing I don't understand about this is why do you have to worry about hurting somebody's feelings here? I don't get that. I don't know, why do you have to placate anybody to, make sure, I hope he doesn't get upset that Nick's doing well. I hope, we can't bring Nick back because, somebody might get mad if he does well.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but the problem becomes, if Wentz comes back and he just, for whatever reason, isn't the same player that we saw last year, and you have Foles standing on the sideline, the enormous amount of pressure to make a change at the drop of a hat is just overwhelming, right?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, man. Well, well, hopefully it gets to that decision because that means the Eagles would have made it to a Super Bowl. Because if they get knocked out in this game, maybe that narrative kind of blows over a bit. I don't know.
It might. It kind of depends on how he plays. If he lights it up in Chicago and they still lose, then I think the conversation's still alive. But, yeah, if they wind up getting beat here or they wind up getting blown out, then I think it's a moot point.
All right, Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City, the Bears and the Eagles. Very interesting matchup. You got a great defensive team in Chicago, but a young quarterback. The playoffs are a completely different animal. First-time quarterback, first-time coach. We'll see how that goes for the Bears, who are a very good defensive team. But, I remember when the Eagles played the Raiders and Lane Johnson was matched up with Khalil Mack. That was a great matchup. The Eagles did a really good job in keeping Mack in check in that game a couple of years ago. So I think that's a big key is Lane Johnson against Khalil Mack.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, they're going to move Mack around. He may be going against Jason Peters at some point, too. And that might not be as good of a matchup for the Eagles.
Probably not. Nope, not at this stage of Jason Peters' career. Although he's played a little bit better the last couple. They've won 5 out of 6. The offensive line has been a big factor in that. Dave Weinberg for the Press of Atlantic City. Before we let you run, your 2018 year in review for the boxing and MMA in Atlantic City. Just a couple of highlights from 2018.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It looks like it's finally coming on coming back a little bit. It was great to see the UFC back in town for the first time in years. They had a world championship fight at Hard Rock for the first time since 2014. So hopefully those guys can both, hopefully MMA and boxing can both, continue that a little bit of a role and get bigger fights here. And hopefully 2019 will be even better. Yeah,
we got a lot. And it was the front page of the sports section for the Press of Atlantic City. Dave's question, can AC connect again? That the big year in 2018 fights. We'll see if we get Boardwalk Hall back. Hard Rock looks like they're getting involved, so the fight game coming back. Dave Weinberg, longtime Eagles and boxing writer, Hall of Fame boxing writer for the Press of Atlantic City. Thanks, Dave.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Happy New Year again.